The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
So we did talk about your company and also how you're about to go forward in Brunei. It's a very new company there with a very fresh idea to encourage people for this volunteerism. But then when you actually establish a company as a startup, and also there should be hurdles and some difficulties or hardship along the way. What have you been facing so far, and how did you actually overcome all those hardship?
Well, I would say that we're incredibly lucky so far in terms of the hurdles, and it's just very much small hurdles. And we're actually, as entrepreneurs, we're all advised to look forward to the big hurdles because it's gonna come. Right now it's just all the small hurdles that. A couple of things that happened was a couple of things that you're looking at is one is commitment, and how a startup being in a startup is actually very scary. And there's a lot of people who initially are in the startup and then now are like having second thoughts and thinking, what, maybe I want to have a more stable job, and that's okay. And then the mentality in Brunei here is how a lot of people actually want to get government jobs and how they want to get something more stable. And that's very understandable, and it's still very much prevalent here, that way of thinking.
I see.
But crazy people like me adventure. So
it's the crazy ones that join entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely, that's true. You should meet all the people. They're all nutheads. Anyway,
Sorry, you mentioned earlier that majority of the Brunei youth prefer to work with the government. In fact, there's a research conducted last 2 years ago to talk about this. It's by University of Brunei Darussalam. So why people are not interested in entrepreneurship in the first place? Why would they prefer to have a comfort zone like the government?
This startups and the startup life is actually very, very new, and I think it's just something that needs to be introduced to Bruneians really slowly. And I think it's for them. It's just the how shall I put this? Stability, absolutely. Like, and it's what's expected by society here. The society here, basically, like your parents telling you, hey, you gotta get a government job, you gotta get something more stable, like monthly income and whatnot, and that sort of thing contributes to their decision. Like they'd rather have these stable jobs than going for startups. But I think startups. What I'm observing, it's very encouraging now. And like I said, I'm working in a co-working space, and I'm talking to these other startups who are so driven, so motivated, and they have lots of these great ideas. And we always mix and match all the time and try to collaborate with each other. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me being like this newbie in the entrepreneurship field and just completely ignorant before I went into entrepreneurship. But while I'm here, like I said, it's just very encouraging. And from what I've learned is that it is actually very new. I mean, we have an incubation center in Brunei, and that's not even 10 years. So
incubation center by the government, is it?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah, this is actually by the government. The incubation center, that's by the government. That's an initiative to encourage people to go into entrepreneurship, and that's not even like 10 years, like I said. So, but then you see everything that's happening around, happening right now in terms of entrepreneurship, and I'm motivated by that, and I think that's a great thing. I think the newer generations are beginning to open up to this area.
How supportive?
That's, I guess, one of the hurdles itself is society. It is like that finding like-minded people who wants to join with. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, go on.
Yes. How supportive is the government towards the younger generation to embark on entrepreneurship?
Very supportive, actually. Surprisingly, I mean, personally, I have views here and there that's very inconsistent with all this stuff. But in terms of entrepreneurship, they're very supportive. They like to see us succeed, and have always advised to go for. They have grants all the time, so they always have us try to apply for it and then do our pitch, and then better our product. They have mentorship, which is absolutely great, I think. And for me as well, especially for me, who didn't come up from the entrepreneurship side, because To be honest, I've only been here less than a year. I have a major in anthropology. I wanted to be a diplomat when I was a child. Growing up, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a diplomat. I want to be a diplomat. I actually went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a while, and then I left it, and then I left that one, and then I told myself, you know, I'd like to be a part of a nonprofit. And then throughout my journey, of self-discovery, and I wanted to do my own nonprofit, just open up my own NGO. But then I realized how unsustainable it would be, because you don't earn, here in Brunei at least, you don't earn a living from running an NGO or a nonprofit. So it's always something more of a hobby, and you always have a day job. So to me, it wouldn't make sense. So the next step was when I stumbled upon startups, and I thought, hey, you know what? This looks fun, and then this looks like something that I can go into, and I don't have to get a 5 to 6 job somewhere in the ministries or anywhere else, and I could just do my own business. But the next step for me was like, okay, what am I good at? What am I gonna sell? And then I went back to my experiences, how I wanted to be, like I said earlier, in nonprofit, and a lot of my work as well was for nonprofits and NGOs. So social good networks came about, and how Voma also came about from there as well. And it's just that it's great that you have these ideas on your own, but you need to find like-minded people. You can't start a business on your own, and especially startups. Startups usually get like a lot of co-founders. So that's also the first hurdles. That's the first hurdle, like trying to find like-minded people. And even right now, it's a continuous challenge to get more people to join, get more people to trying to convince them this is going to be a big thing, and then if you gotta be a part of this. And all the good ones, usually, like the people, like for example, it's so hard to get programmers, and this BOMO requires a lot of programmers. And
is it because the government steal all the programmers from you guys?
From what I heard, that programmers here are shy and introverts, so they hide in a cave. That's what they tell me. They just don't want to go out. But I don't know. I spoke to this one programmer, and he was very enthusiastic in working for one of the government sectors. Like, you know what? Work for me. Just get out of that. Work for me. But but I guess it's a lot of factors, I suppose. Some of them wants to work here, some of them wants to work there. And like I said, maybe it's because the startup thing is pretty much still new, and then this takes a lot more convincing to people, a lot more convincing to do to a lot of people for them to, if they want to join.
It's really interesting. I'm sorry, but then it's really interesting and also very irony at the same time, because you mentioned how supportive the government is towards the entrepreneurship in Brunei, but at the same time you shortly mentioned about the mindset of people. So how do they actually, these two different areas meet together to be able to carry out the plan? Because if the mindset maintains just like that, but the government is very supportive towards the people, how are they gonna communicate each other?
Wait, that's a great question. I think that's something that we're about to find out. That's the process of what's really gonna happen. But I'm very optimistic. In terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of the startup life. So hopefully,
So you just started a year ago. Is there a emerging vibrant community of young entrepreneurs like yourself?
Yes, I would say so. It's it's very encouraging. And I've met one example of a startup is like .root Technologies. They're a local startup. They do a lot of these also internet related apps. So one of their apps is Food Fuel. It's basically like Foodpanda. So they have this big competition here in this country with Foodpanda, but they're doing incredibly well as well, and they want to expand to Philippines. And that for me is like amazing, that's great. You guys are doing this, and that's one of the encouraging signs. People, startups are actually making good strides. They wouldn't say they're succeeding already, but they're making strides to progress and then to make their company bigger.
I see. In Malaysia, one of the biggest startup is we have this community called Magic, and then under that we have a lot more startup initiatives under that, and the more communities are coming up in Malaysia. But in Brunei, what are the prominent startups? You mentioned that it's still new in Brunei, but however, what are can you name like a few community or initiatives that you can
Earlier you mentioned the incubator, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. One of them.
Sure. For me, for this startup, it's at EAC, Entrepreneurship Campus, and that's at the university itself. So that houses a few startups, including mine, which is Social Good Networks. There's Creativity 180 that focuses on marketing. So mostly on digital marketing and social media management. And there's Tash also that helps people to find part-time jobs online. And then there's Daima Labs, which is a 3D company, a 3D printing company. So those are the four main ones here at Entrepreneurship Campus. In iCenter, there's quite a few, and that's actually the more progressive ones because that's basically the hub of all startups and entrepreneurship. Root Technologies is there that I mentioned earlier about their apps and whatnot. They've won competitions in terms of there's this competition called Ignite, and that's also an iCenter and government initiative at the same time. And also there's this company, I can't put my finger on what it's called, but they have an app called Trends, which is basically Trends, CHREND,
All right.
S with an S. Basically it's an anonymous chat room basically. So that's going very well as well, very, very well. And also, of course, there's dozens of them there. So I've visited them there as well, and how they're very, very much they're busy all the time. And they're very encouraging. They give us great advice and how you start, how you can also run your startup. And these are basically the communities. And I think that's one of the ways how the government themselves can encourage more on entrepreneurship and startups by having communities, because we support each other. We are so open to collaborating with each other, and by having strong communities, I think that's the step forward for entrepreneurship here.
Is there any plans of yours to expand throughout Southeast Asia, and especially maybe Malaysia, since you're smack right in between Sabah and Sarawak?
Absolutely. Funny enough, actually, I was thinking of emailing you and asking, hey, do you have any recommendations for NGOs or nonprofits? But Arlene, actually, yeah. But we're moving as fast as we can. Right now, it's all in Indonesia, and I'm actually flying off to Indonesia sometime next month, the end of the month actually, and actually meeting these NGOs and nonprofits face to face, and actually giving them a pitch, showing them how it looks like now, and then the ones I've actually spoke to, and the ones that my focal points are connecting me with. So it's all very exciting for me, and for the team, obviously. And once that's moved, once that's somewhat the connection is established there, we're definitely looking into something more concrete. So we'll get contracts, and we'll get them to look into the terms and agreement, and then we'll look into other countries, and Malaysia definitely, and then going into Singapore and all these other, we do have a list of potential NGOs and organizations that we want to approach, but I suppose timing is important.
Do you approach via your own personal initiative, especially entrepreneurs or networks outside of Brunei, or do you approach via certain formal organization, like maybe an ASEAN-based data network that would provide you information about other entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia?
It's more of a combination. I think on my side, I was very lucky to be able to go to a lot of forums and conferences on my own, and then being able to connect with all these amazing individuals, and a lot of them are running their own NGOs, and I myself have emailed them personally. It's all very casual, to be honest. It's all very very informal, nothing very contractual or anything like that at this point. But all of them have been very enthusiastic in wanting to join the database. So yeah, most of them are through my own my own connections, and we are looking into going more in a more formal basis. Yeah, we are looking to that as well, and how we can also connect to like the big, especially the big organizations like the UN, etc.
All right. Well, we'll take another short break and I will come back after just the one song, Counting Stars.